So here's the next scenario. This is the other weirder aid climb, like I'd promised you guys. Now, I'd actually done this before. This isn't terribly uncommon in the challenge course industry. Anyways, this structure is really cool. It's very iconic in Sevilla. The entire structure is temporary. So you can see on the inside up there, and it's just a scaffold structure. The entire structure is made of scaffold, and they scab it with plywood or OSB or something, and then decorate it. It changes every year. I think every year. If you look back in older Rescue Great Day photos, you'll see some. You'll see the same basic structure that looks different. Okay, so with my limited knowledge of how to do these edits, honestly just discovered this green screen featured talking head thing just like last week. But I got the operational data sheets from Team Lead, who got them from Rescue Great Day organizers. So this is the gateway. What do they call it on here? Portida Feria. Sorry, my Spanish is awful. Initial access had to be made, and I'll go back to photos and we can talk about it, but here's the data sheet. Initial access had to be made with prussics along the diagonal tension line up here. 2 rescuers had to make patient contact, so I went up first and Robert had to go behind me, so he had the frustrating job and he had to wait for me. I do think he was a little quicker than me. For the record, I know he'll feel good about that. Yeah, you had to have 2 prussics, one to the sternal, one to the ventral, and then you had to have a steel connector. If you had one, great. If you didn't, the organization gave you one that went from your ventral to just ride on the cable like a zip line kind of thing. And then you had to have an ASAP or mobile fall arrestor up to a secondary rope that could only be used for fall arrest, basically. So you couldn't just diagonal tension climb like with a TASLove or anything like that. You had to climb the cables. So this was another diagonal aid, basically. This one slightly more frustrating because you had to tie prussics on like a 3/4 inch galvanized steel cable. And it was probably 40 meter climb. We had to go inside the structure. You can see the patient right there, and navigate that scaffold structure. And they were very specific about what you could and couldn't clip to and where you actually needed to be clipped into. There were judges in there that could tell us that. We don't have any pictures or videos from in there because the photographer was on the ground the whole time, unless Robert has his meta glasses, which would probably look pretty cool. Anyways, and then you had to load the patient in a stretcher, and they had to get out. There was no medical anything, really. He was just some dude who got crawled up in there and got stuck, couldn't get down. We did a full patient assessment, but nothing in the medical dictated anything we had to do necessarily. They just said you have to take him out in a stretcher. Stretcher had to be attended, so 2-person load. We built just another diagonal tension lower. We had 2 mains, 2 track lines, 2 tension lines, whatever you want to call them, and then 1 single control, and then an ASAP from the carriage to one of the tracks as well. And then I rode the basket with just some positioning lanyards. Our anchor, as you can tell, was not a fire truck like that looks like. We used our rental van once again. Always love doing that. Yeah, and then the patient had to land in a very specific place designated by the organization. They just had some tape on the ground, had to come away from the structure so far, and then we could go down. We were able to slack the tracks to bring it down. And we didn't have to make any kind of reeve or anything like that. A lot of times in these comps, once you set tension lines, they won't let you adjust them after you've loaded them. They let us do that this time. And then we had to get all gear out of that structure and to the ground, which you'll see are fun playing with retrievables once again. All right, so here's Robert doing the aid. So I've already left the ground. He's got 2 prussics that are 2, I guess, tandem prussics. One of them's long, one of them's short. You can see that green one he's using as a step right there, and then he'll slide that lower one up, sit in that lower one, kind of reset all of that, and then slide that footstep one back up. And you can see the steel connector they required there, as well as the ASAP on that secondary rope up there that's parallel to the cable. And it's just, wash, rinse, repeat. All right, so here's the kind of the live action. The last one was a slow-mo. just step and slide the whole time, and then you got to get up all the way until you get in that. All right, so once again, we had to get in through that hole, into that scaffolding structure, and this just kind of shows you what that window looks like. Robert's there setting some of the rigging. I'm well behind him, tending to the patient, loading the patient in the basket. We kind of had to do a little mini cross haul inside that whole structure. That's really hard to describe. We just use positioner lanyards, Grions, or the Finches, just to kind of get him patient safely out into that window. All right, so here's another slow-mo of us fumbling with the basket up there at the top, trying to get out of that window. I am leaning all over it, trying to balance it. I'll show you the bottom side rigging, and you can hopefully understand what kind of system. You can see all of those little light bulbs right next to my feet, and it's actually really nerve-wracking, I'm sure, for the guys at the bottom. Like all of these light bulbs are all over. I'm having a really spot where I step because I don't want to break this, like, very famous structure. And we're going to lower out. Pretty straightforward as far as that goes. Balancing the basket right here, maintaining patient care the entire time. Again, patient's not injured in any kind of way. And then you can probably see kind of what's going on back there in some of the rigging. I don't know what that judge is doing. The rules were they did not want us to put a 2-person load on a single horizontal piece. So we could use a horizontal and or a vertical, but they would let us put everything on one vertical piece. So Robert's getting ready to get all this stuff back down again. He's going to rig up kind of a wicked retrievable that once again steals from arboriculture. We're going to rig ring friction savers. So yeah. All right, so here's what the bottom side looks like. We're anchored to the vehicle there around the wheel. We have 2 tracks, that's what they're tensioning right now, and then the single control you can see out in front of the rest of the rigging right there. And we got them really tight because, again, that window was really hard to hit coming out of that scaffolding in between those scabs. So yeah, they're hooking on it pretty good. The rules here, we're using cricks, but we're only putting 2 dudes on a 3-to-1, so you got to be careful with your input forces. And we didn't want to pull any scaff tubes over or anything as well, though everything in there is pretty solid as far as scaffolding goes. All right, so we've made it past the designated point that they needed us to be at, and you can see the bridle rig up right there. It's pretty simple. It's 2 pulleys, track lines, once again, and an ASAP on one of those tracks for the secondary, and then a single control, all operated from the bottom, so that control is redirected up through a pulley at the top. But we're just slacking the tracks right down there, and then we'll set top on the ground, blow out his system, get him out of the work zone and into definitive care. All right, so Robert had just rappelled down. He rigged another retrievable. So we rigged what arborists know as a ring friction saver, in which one ring is larger than the other. You tie a knot in the ends of your rope. It'll pass through the large ring and get stuck on the small one, and it'll take the strap or sling or strop or whatever off of the structure. But it got hung up on this netting right here. We had tucked it away to try to mitigate that. We knew that was going to be an issue, but as we transitioned the litter out of that window, it moved some of that netting. The judges gave us a lot of grace right here. They didn't have to. But they gave us a lot of grace right here because they felt bad because we rigged this cool retrievable and then they got hung up in some netting. We had a little more netting in our space than some of the other teams, so I don't know what their criteria was there. We didn't have a ton of space overhead to rig anything really, just a whole lot cleaner. So Robert rigged this up and it worked just fine. And then that whole system is just clipped into that cable and it just zip lined down. We caught it all. We just pulled the ropes tight. Very controllable system. So we're cleaning up right here, trying to get everything back into the finish. That scenario went really well, outside of another retrievable snafu. So that scenario wasn't terribly difficult. It was just it was really tough access. It was another incredibly physical aide climb, and then communicating with the judges who did not speak English, and we don't speak Spanish very well at all, to figure out what we could and could not anchor to. Again, let me know if you have questions, comments, concerns. I might diagram this one. Someone challenged my ability to draw on my last diagramming video, so maybe I'll draw better pictures.